Alex Cohen joins the program. Alex Cohen is going to be calling the Premier 12 tournament. Yeah, but he'll have Group A in Mexico. So you're going to be stationed in Guadalajara, and you have the group that Team USA is going to be in. I got to ask you questions as simple as like, what is Premier 12? And also, tell me about the roster. But let's start with the minor league journey too, because you're in
Sure.
Chicago right now.
Mhm.
Previously with the Iowa Cubs, but you had a whole bunch of stops, including in Australia before that. Can you just walk us through like where you were at in your baseball journey?
Sure. How long do you have? It was long, winding, not linear. So my first job in professional baseball was for the Gateway Grizzlies, Frontier League,
Mhm.
independent ball. And if you say, well, independent ball, it's not pro ball. It is professional baseball because they do get paid for it. But I barely did. I got $250 a month, and I got to stay with a host family. So
That's awesome.
uh, did that for the summer that I graduated college. Spent 2 years with the Huntsville Stars, AA affiliate for the Brewers in Huntsville, Alabama. That team got sold. So in 2014, I went out to Oakland, was a broadcast media relations assistant for the Oakland Athletics. So no play-by-play, and just essentially learned. I sat up in the booth with Ken Korak and Vince Cotroneo and just learned what to do and what not to do. Realized that I really miss being in front of a microphone. So as you said, went to Australia, which was winter here, summer out there, 2014, and worked for the Melbourne Aces. And it was essentially studying abroad, but just baseball, not school. It was incredible. It was one of the best 3 month stretches of my entire life. So did that, came back to the United States and started from the ground up. Yeah, worked for the Idaho Falls Chuckers, rookie league affiliate for the Kansas City Royals, 2015 in the Pioneer League, 2 years in the Midwest League, 2016, 2017 with the Bowling Green Hot Rods in Bowling Green, Kentucky, single A affiliate for the Tampa Bay Rays. Then the last 7 years with the Iowa Cubs, AAA affiliate for the Chicago Cubs. So yeah, I've hit all of my levels, all of my stomping grounds, all of my area codes, zip codes, states, bus rides, everything. You name it, I did it.
So you 100% had to learn more about geography from your career path than you did in school
I mean, I
every
didn't learn anything
right.
during school, so yes,
Yeah, yeah,
absolutely.
yes. I figured I know more, I think more cities because of the affiliates now than I in certain states and stuff than I
Yeah,
probably would have known if I was studying maps. But I mean, I'm glad you laid that all out because I don't think people realize the journey that, broadcasters really embark on to get
yeah.
to the promised land. And sure, some have a little bit of a quicker climb, but the vast majority have grinded their way similarly, if not even more, with even more stops than a lot of players. And I think that's the side of it. And again, not comparing playing to the broadcasting
It's
jacket,
okay. You can
always
do
too
it if
much
you
back on
want
your
to.
hands.
I'm
Yeah,
ready.
we're reaching out over here.
My labor's
But
feeling
like
good right now. I can go through a bullpen.
in terms of the mental fortitude and just the passion that you have to have for your craft, it's very similar in that regard. And we've been able to catch up several times now. I didn't know that your path was that long, so
Yeah,
that's really awesome.
it was long. I mean, and Jack can attest to this too. I mean, when you're broadcasting baseball throughout the summer, I mean, there are some days that you feel like you are one phone call away from the big leagues and it's coming. And then there's some games where it's Jack, it's game 5 of a 6 game series at Victory Field, and you guys are getting just completely washed by the other team. You're down 10-2. Your broadcasts aren't great. And you don't feel further away from the big leagues. Like it is just like, I'm never gonna get there. I'm gonna quit. Like you go through those trials and tribulations and those thought processes, but you just have to stay the course, enjoy calling baseball games, learn a little bit each day, and there you go. So
I think it
And
was
I think that's
June.
applicable to a lot of things in life too. Sorry, Jack. I was just going to say
yeah,
that could be applied to almost any realm.
No
for sure.
doubt. The game that Alex was talking about was June 21st or 22nd when Columbus hung 20 on us. And I think it was dueling three homer games from Jonathan Rodriguez and Brian Lavastida. And I was like, are we sure this is for me? Like, accounting sounds
The right
awesome.
career path. Yeah, I just remember 2023. We had lost like 8 straight, and the second to last game lost like 17-1. I go home and I turn the lights off, and I'm like sitting Indian style on my bed and just like pondering my life choices.
You're doing the Aaron Rodgers like ayahuasca retreat.
Exactly. Like put me in a hole 10 feet under, and I don't want to be seen for like a week. And then I'll decide if I want to broadcast baseball again.
Exactly. So you're now in Chicago. You're going to go to Guadalajara for the Premier 12, which we're going to get
Yeah.
to in a moment. But now as a Chicagoan, you have one opportunity to take a friend that's never been to Chicago out to dinner. Are
Okay.
you taking them to go get deep dish pizza or Italian beef?
I am taking them. Can both be an answer? We can
No.
get like small. Okay. I'm
No.
probably gonna go to Pequod's deep dish pizza.
Okay. Yeah, fair.
Yeah.
Aram, have you done the Pequods thing yet?
No, I've not.
They burn the
I've not done
crap out of the crust, and it is
But
unbelievable.
it's so good. But again, like some people don't like deep dish pizza. It's not pizza. I don't care. It's good. You can call it a calzone. You can call it like glorified lasagna. I
Yeah,
don't care. It's good.
it is good. Fair.
Fair. I'll
Love
try it.
that.
It's just one of those things where it's like I've never had the desire, I
But
guess.
like
But
once you put it in your mind, like you don't have to call it pizza. Like you can call it something else. Just like try it. Like don't even like label it. Like it's 2024. No labels here. Don't label it as pizza. You'll like it.
I'm totally
give it a
with you.
go.
All right. So you are headed to Mexico, what, in 5 days? We're recording on Friday the 1st. You're going 6 days, right? The 7th?
Yeah, so I'm going Thursday the 7th.
Okay.
So
So you're going to call the WBSC Premier 12
yes.
tournament. And this is something that I had seen before on social media. And I
Mhm.
remember like seeing a photo of you at the Tokyo Dome with John Morosi. And I was like, oh, that's awesome. I wonder what tournament this is.
Yeah, it was pretty sick.
Right.
It was
It
pretty cool.
resurfaces.
Yeah.
And we saw a roster. It was funny. We did this at the end of the Just Baseball show where we ran through the roster, and this is a roster that had Rich Hill and Termarr Johnson listed back to back. And it's like, okay, what tournament is this? Can
Yeah.
you give us the 411 on like what this is? What is the gist of the WBSC Premier 12?
Sure. Well, we'll start with the WBSC. It's the World Baseball Softball Confederation, and they just rank all the countries when it comes to their baseball and softball prowess. And basically, those rankings are meant for seeding for bigger tournaments. So you have the Premier 12. It started in 2015. You have 2015, 2019, 2024. The top, I believe it's the top four teams in the Premier 12 get automatic bids to the World Baseball Classic. So it is the top preliminary tournament leading up to the World Baseball Classic. It also helps really determining rankings and seeding for the Olympics. So it's a primary tournament that helps to see, decide seedings for the two biggest tournaments in international baseball. Does that answer your
Yes,
question?
it does.
Okay.
Yes, it does. So the gist is like I'm trying to think about the soccer equivalent.
Hmm.
Because I know that there is a soccer equivalent. Like you have, Euro qualifying or World Cup qualifying, something like that. So I guess it's what kind of the Copa America of baseball. Is that fair?
Pretty much.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not as much of a soccer guru as much as you are because you're so, multi-verse and I'm exceptionally
Shut up, man.
one-dimensional. But yeah, no, it's a really important tournament. But you look at the WBSC, they also have the U12 Baseball World Cup, U15 Baseball World Cup, U18 Baseball World Cup, U23 Baseball World Cup. So it's a lot more comprehensive than just, oh, the Premier 12, here's the seating. But that being said, the Premier 12 is really important. Group A is really important. And then when they go to Japan and play the Super Round, you have to look at the top four teams and how important that shakes out.
Gotcha.
So is this is an opportunity, I guess, for some of the teams that are kind of on the outside looking in to solidify themselves, maybe like get themselves into the conversation for the World Baseball Classic. Like,
Yes.
is there an example of that in recent years? I don't know if they would check out, or maybe they already were comfortably within it, but like maybe Nicaragua. Like I know that they kind of were
So
a surprise and had made, but maybe they were already solidly in the
they
WBC.
were already
Is there an
solid
example of someone
because
that maybe elevated?
yeah, so I think if you look back at the Premier 12s, 2019 really solidified Mexico as a baseball power because they made it into the Super Round
Mhm.
in the Tokyo Dome, and they beat Chinese Taipei out there, and they went on to the medal round, and at that point. You look at Mexico's rosters in international play, and it was a lot of fringe big leaguers, guys who weren't on the 40 man, and that really catapulted people to be like, you know what, like let's go, let's get on the roster. Then you had like American-born players who had Mexican backgrounds playing for Team Mexico instead of Team USA. So I think not as much like putting them on to like, oh, you're going to qualify for the World Baseball Classic.
Yeah.
But when you have Mexico, who was already qualified, just their performance in the 2019 Premier 12, people are like, all right, like Mexican could be a world baseball power.
It's funny, like
That's
this
cool.
is almost the opposite of the basketball recruiting pitch
It
because
is.
if USA basketball underperforms in like the FIBA World Cup, then you've got LeBron and
All
like
right,
all of
LeBron.
these guys. Yeah, it's like, okay,
Yeah,
time to go play in the Olympics because my country needs me. What you're saying is like a good performance here is almost a recruiting pitch to a
it
guy
is.
like an Alec Thomas or a guy like, I'm thinking, even an Isaac Paredes, who I assume was not on that roster in
Yeah.
2019. You have those guys that
Alex
are like,
Verdugo.
yeah, Verdugo. Like, I want to go, play. I want to go represent my country here with these guys that have already proven that this can be, a solid contender in the biggest, international baseball tournament in the world.
Yeah, it's just like, oh my God, USA has all these players who are going to be on their world, baseball classic roster. This, Mexico program, they can compete with them. Let me be a part of that.
Got you. We were talking roster construction a little bit before we hit the record button, and
Yeah.
I stumbled upon a lineup from November 2nd, 2019 for Team
Okay.
USA. And it's fascinating. And I want to get your take on like how the rosters are constructed, because obviously we have, 44-year-old Rich Hill, and then we have 20-year-olds that are ready to compete as well. But this lineup for Team USA from 2019 had Drew Waters, Joe Adell, Dalton Varsho, Bobby Dahlbeck, Jake Cronenworth, Alec Boehm, Eric Kratz. Like, I mean, dude,
I love the last name.
yeah, but like it's
Yeah.
just it's a crazy assortment, and you see it on this roster as well. Like you've got a Dan Altavilla and you have a Carson Williams. There's
Yes.
this healthy blend. So in terms of roster construction, how do you
Yeah.
feel like each, team, especially USA, goes about?
We'll start with Team USA. So what you'll see with the position players, like in 2019, are highly regarded players who are about to be or might be just getting on the fringe of being put on the 40 man. So you have these young players like Bobby Dahlbeck, Alec Boehm, Joe Adell. They were drafted 2 years before. They were being put on the 40 man the year after just to see how they can play against international pitchers. And as you know, international pitching is a lot different than minor league pitching when you're facing a rotation with Korea and Japan. They throw differently in the international play as opposed to working in minor league baseball. You're just seeing how they can fare against those type of pitchers and those type of arsenals. So I think it really helps the big league club establish, hey, we're going to put this guy on the 40 man. We're going to give him an invite to big league spring training. That's going to be their first taste to big league life. And then you talk about the pitchers, the Rich Hills, and even Eric Kratz from a battery
Right.
standpoint. These are guys who have big league experience. They were probably just taken off the 40 man roster, and they're trying to get a non-roster invite, or internationally, scouts from Korea and Japan are going to be there. So if they can get NPBL or NPL and KBO guys, like, hey, if you're not going to get an invite to big league spring training, but you pitch well in the Premier 12, like maybe you get a international offer. Maybe you get to go play in Japan. Maybe you get to go play in Korea. So I think pitching wise, it's more of the experienced guys who have, 5, 6 years of a big league track record and are looking for one last chance. If you go out there and you put up 9 shutout innings, you might get that one last invite to big league spring training.
Interesting.
That's really cool. And it's funny because you look at the baseball or you look at the roster for USA and it, especially on the pitching side, really does like hit that point home when you have like a Dylan Covey who actually started to show some good things in
Yeah.
AAA. And I think looks like a guy that, could either get that international option and, end up getting a nice little bag, then coming back, or another team may be interested. I think Anthony Ghost is kind of in that same store, like in that
Yeah,
same boat as
center
well.
fielder turned into left-handed reliever, making the big leagues, and you're a lefty who throws 97. And if you have 5 outings and you strike out 12 and walk 2, somebody's probably going to take a chance on you.
Somebody could, especially, and that's a guy that like internationally, like could just get $250,000, $500,000, go throw
Yeah,
somewhere else,
go out there, get
and
the
just go
bag. True.
fastball heavier. Like that. That's the cool thing about it. Rich Hill, I don't know what the justification is there, other than like he's bored. But what I love is the prospect like counter of that too, where it's a lot of guys, as you mentioned, that I think are trying to make either that 40-man case or that active roster case. And I look at like a
Yeah.
Drake Baldwin with the Braves. Like they must just be telling him play as many games as humanly possible
Yes.
right now because we want you to be catching for us next year a little bit more. Because he's in the AFL right now. He played a full freaking season this year in AAA, as you guys know. and now he's going to go play more ball games. How many games is it for these guys if they make, if you presumably make a run all the way through?
Yeah, so you have I believe it's 4 or 5 in the initial group stage round. So in Group A play, I believe they're playing 4 games. And then if you play the super round, if you make it out to the championship, you'll play 5 more. So it's 9 additional games.
Gotcha.
Okay.
This Group A I think I look at Group B and I'm like, wow, this is arguably more loaded because Group B is Japan, South Korea, Chinese Taipei, Cuba, the DR, and Australia. Australia, by the way, going to have number one overall pick Travis Bazzana,
Yeah.
which is crazy. Group A, Mexico, the U.S., Venezuela, the Netherlands, Panama, Puerto Rico. I'm sure that the Dutch are going to run out like a Didi Gregorius, Jonathan Scope, middle infield, and then like Chadwick Trump catching. That's just
Yeah.
always what they do. But in terms of, other intrigue around Group A, and we'll get back to the Team USA roster in a moment, but who is really like the key competition against the Americans in Group A?
I would probably just say looking at the roster, Mexico, just because they're ranked, number 2 in the world when it comes to baseball. And they've had so much success in World Baseball Classics and obviously the 2019 Premier 12. They've really started to take their international play seriously, as I said, getting, guys who would, have half U.S., half Mexican status to be able to go to Team Mexico. And if you look at their roster, it's a lot of big league experience. It's a lot of fringe guys and guys who have played for Team Mexico before. So it's a nice creative balance of they don't really have as many prospects as Team USA does. But if you look at guys who have played internationally, played for the Mexican League, played out in Korea, played out in Japan, and then big league experience. So they've had a lot of international experience, a lot of professional experience, and I think they can give Team USA, I won't say a run for their money, but they'll be the stiffest competition.
Got you.
And so from the prospect perspective, obviously Team USA has the most. Is there another team that you see some? Of course, that's going to be where my mind goes. But is there another team where you think that there's some similar, or at least like the next closest in terms of prospect intrigue?
Yeah, I mean, so Cuba in years past have had the Gurriel brothers in 2015 and 2019. So they, usually look for guys who are going to be taken on by minor league baseball teams or should be professional baseball organizations and go to minor league baseball. But obviously, Japan, if you look at their rosters in years past, you had Shohei Ohtani in 2015. You had a starting rotation of Shota Imanaga and Yoshinobu Yamamoto in 2019. Seiya Suzuki was the Premier 12 MVP in 2019. Masataka Yoshida was on that team. So you look at these players from Japan, and it's normally players who in a year or two are either going to be NPB studs or are going to get posted. So I would say Japan is the roster that you look at that probably has the next biggest big league dividends being paid towards that.
I'm looking at the Puerto Rico roster, and they've got a Sabin Ceballos and a Javier Vaz, who are both, performing in the minor leagues right now. And then obviously Bazzana is on Team Australia. So
yeah, 2019, Julio Rodriguez played for Venezuela, or sorry, played for the DR.
Played for the DR. Gotcha. Yeah. So it's like there's always going to be like that kind of guy that is there, and that makes sense. So there could be 1 to 2 in any given lineup that you're watching. And Japan, like, I like that you bring up Japan because this is a very unique opportunity to see them play in an accessible manner all together. Like the World Baseball Classic was awesome because we got the introduction to Roki Sasaki as like a real person, and Yamamoto is a real person, and Imanaga is like, somebody that's going to be there now. Yeah. Even a guy like Murakami, who you heard so much about, like you had the opportunity to watch that guy.
Yeah, I mean, and Murakami was supposed to play in the Premier 12, but he broke his toe, so he's not on the roster. Yeah. So
okay, but these are future big leaguers and guys that are going to make 9 figures.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. No, Japan is.
Sorry.
No, you're good. One more thing about Japan is you just kind of have to bear witness to how dominant that they have been on the international baseball landscape. So for them, if they end up winning the Premier 12 in a 2-year stretch, winning the Olympics, World Baseball Classic, Premier 12, like that is dynasty type of stuff right there.
Right.
After winning the 2019 Premier 12 as well.
How is Chris Carter on the Team Mexico roster? Am I seeing this right?
It is. Yeah, I believe he has some Mexican lineage. So in order to be able to be put on Team Mexico, I believe, or sorry, on another team, I believe one of your parents has to have, citizenship to that country.
Okay.
Chris Carter being in this, it's another awesome selling point.
Yeah, but it's also like you look at Team Italy in the Olympics and the World Baseball Classic, and they have like, John Smith, who's like grandma, like immigrated from Italy.
I want to jump back to Team USA because obviously it's prospect laden, and we mentioned a guy like a Drake Baldwin. I'm also thinking about a guy like a Justin Crawford, who
Yeah.
I know Aram has laid out his thoughts on how that's working in terms of production at high A and double A. Like at the end of the day, he's producing. Ground ball rate's very high. He looks very young at points, but he's one of the better statistical performers in the minor leagues. A
Yeah.
guy like that who is clearly young and like you see him go up against adults like 30 somethings on the mound. How much do you feel like you can learn from these, maximum 9 games about a
Yeah.
guy like a Justin Crawford?
Well, I think USA has a path where they've done that in the past. Joe Adell, specifically in 2019, he was 20. He was drafted in the first round the year before, I guess 2 years before. So he was the youngest player on that roster, and he played every game. And you saw good things from him at the plate. He struggled in the field. That's kind of how it's happened over his big league career. But I think they use it as a litmus test for like, okay, this guy has grown X amount at the high A level, at the single A level. Let's put that to the test. Let's see what he can do against the international competition of guys who, he might be 20, 21, but also guys who are 32, 33, have a lot of experience. They know how to read scouting reports. They know how to pitch you. It's a steep learning curve, but I think with, as you said, like guys like Joe Adell in 2019, and I think USA has a couple players on this roster. Termarr Johnson, one of them, even Matt Shaw, so to speak. He doesn't have that much minor league baseball experience. So I think USA has a platform where they've done this in the past and they're comfortable doing it now in the future.
So, quick aside, you got a month with Matt Shaw, 3 weeks
I
with Matt
did.
Shaw. You got a month with Matt Shaw in Iowa. What was that experience like? Because obviously this guy is as athletic as they come and
Yes.
as like baseball instinctual as they come.
It just sneaks up on you. You see him run down the first, or I mean, he swiped over 30 bags. You're like, man, he can really run. You see him go oppo power like 420 feet to right center field. It's like, man, he has juice. You see him have like 3 to 4 hits in a game, 3 times over a week span. It's like, man, he can hit. So right there, you have three of the tools. Like you're a three-tool player. So it just like kind of sneaks up on you. I think Shaw defensively, obviously, like you want to try to put him at second, you want to try to put him at third. I think his instincts are more left side of the infield. And you watch the swing during batting practice. There's so many moving parts to it. There's the high leg kick. There's a lot of like fluid wick motion where you're like, that's not going to work just because guys are going to throw you inside. But it works, and he's hit at every level, and he had a 20-30 season while missing 28 games this year. So it's just like, all right, like if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Like when's the luck gonna wear out? And to this point, it hasn't. He just hits, he runs, he can field, he plays every game. He'll hit at the top of the lineup, he can get on base, he can kind of do it all. So I hate using the word like sneaky athletic or sneaky productive,
You're
but he
right.
is.
Did how quickly was he just continuing to start to turn his body in the batter's box to facing you in the press room, like in the broadcast booth? Because I every time I checked in, I felt like he was slowly rotating a little bit more with his stance towards facing the umpire behind home. And then by the end of the season, it almost felt like he was like ripping the Pete Wheeler and facing the opposite direction. But again, as you said, like I queued up every pitch on the inner half. Like, yeah, there was some hard, arm side run, but that would blow anybody up. Like he's
Correct.
turning stuff around somehow,
Yes, and
legitimately with
he's
his
pulling the
with
ball more. And the interesting part of that is like, yeah, he's really, really open. But then at 2 strikes, he changes back to normal, and he does it every time. And that's why he doesn't strike out as much, and that's why he has power to all fields. It's just, you start really open to begin the at bat, and then once it's 1-2, just go back to normal. It's
one
like
of those
such
guys that
like
does
a
nothing.
stark adjustment. It's crazy, but it works
Yeah.
for him.
Yep, that's awesome.
It's so cool. Anybody else on the Team USA roster that you're like really excited to see here? Obviously you've got guys like Chandler Simpson. I think that's number one on Aram
Yeah.
and I's list, where it's like, how fast is this gonna go? But is there anybody
You
else?
already brought up mine. Mine was Drake Baldwin for
Okay.
a guy and that age, that position, playing that many games, as you said, playing a full minor league season, then going to the Arizona Fall League, then going out and probably starting every game in the Premier 12. again, you look at Team USA, like they had Dalton Varsho on the 2019 team. They have a really good track record of developing players, you know, especially infielders and catchers to, hey, if you're going to play in these international games and you're going to play well, your ascent to the big leagues will be quickly. Well, if you look at the Atlanta Braves organization, they're pretty stockpiled in those positions anyway. So just to see if, hey, if you're going to play and you're going to play well, are you going to make it up to the Atlanta Braves? Or are you going to get traded to one of the 29 other teams? So I think that his ascent and how he profiles in the grand scheme of things, it's going to be a really interesting plot when it comes to Team USA.
I love that one, and that's what I'm going to be keyed in on too, just seeing how he's handling it behind the dish. Because I also just seeing the energy levels. He's at 137 games right now.
Yeah,
I mean he's on pace between I don't know if he's going to play however many more AFL games, and then obviously this tournament he's going to be like right at 162, which
right.
you don't even see from big league
And think about this. And think about this. So you start, you play an entire minor league season, then you don't have a break. You go right out to Arizona. You play in the Arizona Fall League. Then you go to Team USA's camp. You go down to Guadalajara, Mexico. Hopefully, you go to the Super Round, get to play in the Tokyo Dome. So you're playing 160 plus games in 3 different countries in 4 different leagues. It's just insane.
And then locking in spring training, buddy, you got a job to win.
Yeah,
you got to back
and probably getting a big league invite, which means you have to go down to Florida a month and a half early, so you get no break. Good luck.
This guy must love ball.
So my thought is like, do you think he's not okay with like rest? He's just like he's one of those where it's like, hey, it hits December 10th, and he's sitting there and he's just going stir crazy. It's like,
Whittling his thumbs.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Like he strikes me. This schedule strikes me as a kind of guy that is not good sitting with his own thoughts.
No.
Yeah, just
there's no way.
It's the ADHD type of mindset. It's like, always got to be doing something, got to be playing, got to be catching feds. So no, I mean he's played well in the Arizona Fall League, and you go there. He's probably like the 4th youngest player on Team USA. He'll learn a lot. And you ask why Rich Hill is on that roster. Well, Rich Hill might be a big factor in helping Drake Baldwin his transition to international play. So he's definitely the leader on that team. He has Team USA experience. He's the oldest player by like 5 years. So, or actually, it's probably more than that. I think it's like 8 years. So, that's the reason that Rich Hill's on there with a bunch of young players and prospects. He'll show them how to maneuver and navigate the international baseball life.
I thought it was really funny that Michigan baseball put out a tweet, and it was a photo of Rich Hill in college, and then a photo of Rich Hill now in a USA baseball jersey. It's like, at what point do you stop claiming a guy? and my thought is like, okay, he's 44 years old. I'm thinking like through age 30 is when you can claim somebody, but when they hit 44, you probably shouldn't be saying recent alum Rich Hill is on the Premier 12.
Was the original photo black and white?
Yeah, when you're claiming somebody who played there in the 90s, like the shoe doesn't fit anymore. It's a little bit outdated.
Insane. I'm sure he did some color on Red Sox radio broadcast during spring training.
Yeah.
That's a guy like I would talk to if I were you and just be like, hey man, like what are your plans post-playing career? Because obviously he still has interest in playing, and he was making it very clear. I loved listening to one of his spring training broadcasts that he was doing, and he still made very clear like every half inning. It's like, oh no, I'm still throwing bullpens. Like I'm still pitching.
It's like, hey, I'm topping out at 89. Fastball velo's up, baby.
he was pitching himself. He was pitching himself to organizations as he was like calling a game. But it's fascinating, and I'm with you. Like that guy, even just being around, man, and a guy like, even a guy like a Dan Altavilla or a Tuki Toussaint that's been through the ringer in his baseball career, being there for a Carson Williams and a Chandler Simpson and a Justin Crawford is great because it's the vet rookie thing in a 2-week sample that's invaluable.
Well, with Tukey, too, like Tukey knew all about being a top prospect and failing and succeeding. Remember, Tukey was a top prospect in the Braves organization when he was coming up, and he was a top 100 prospect in all minor league baseball. And then he really struggled, and then he got hurt, and then he got back up to the big leagues, and then he got DFA'd. And he's one of those guys who's fighting for an invite to big league spring training or trying to make 6 figures, 7 figures out in Japan. So he's seen some stuff. Rich Hill has seen some stuff. So if I'm Justin Crawford or if I'm Matt Shaw, like I am going right next to him. I'm sitting right by their locker. Tell me everything. I'll be a sponge.
Love that.
Yep.
Alex, last one for you.
Go for it.
Where can we watch? It's one of those where 2019, we knew it was happening. I'm not sure, if many people knew how to access it, but I feel like people are clamoring for some high level baseball here. So give us kind of the lowdown on where to access, where to follow along with the Premier 12.
Yeah, so go to WBSC.org, and then the first page will say WBSC 38 game tournament pass for $24.99. So click that and just you'll be able to watch all 38 games, and you'll actually be able to watch it on TV too on DAZN. So you can watch it on TV if you have DAZN, but if you don't and you have to stream it, WBSC.org, you'll see in the right-hand corner, watch all 38 games, tournament pass, $24.99. That's how you can do it.
Love that. Is it available on the streams? I'm kidding. Alex Cohen.
I'm actually going to have it on my iPhone.
Oh,
Picture's not going to be that great, but
I love that. Alex Cohen, you are the man. Appreciate you joining us, and look forward to tuning in Guadalajara.
Thanks for having me on, guys. Appreciate it.